Hello, this is Robin, and I am back today with the next Free Code Camp code challenge. So let's take a look and see what we have here. So we're on the freecodecamp.org/learn page, and if you scroll down, we can go to today's challenge. Okay, and we're still on Space Week Day 3. It's called Space Week Day 3 Phone Home. For day 3 of Space Week, you are given an array of numbers representing distances in kilometers between yourself, satellites, and your home planet in a communication route. Determine how long it will take a message sent through the route to reach its destination planet using the following constraints. The first value in the array is the distance from your location to the first satellite. Each subsequent value, except for the last, is the distance to the next satellite. The last value in the array is the distance from the previous satellite to your home planet. The message travels at 300,000 kilometers per second. Each satellite the message passes through adds a 0.5-second transmission delay. Return a number rounded to 4 decimal places with trailing zeros removed. Okay, this one's interesting. So over here we have a function called sendMessage with route. I'm assuming that's going to be an array, and we're currently returning a route, but we're going to want to return the number. Down here we have some tests for some examples. The test 1, send message 300,000 plus 300,000 should return 2.5. So I'm assuming that's those totaled together, add up, and then we're going to divide each number by 300,000 kilometers per second. Add those two numbers together and add a 0.5 for each satellite. So in this case, there's two, so it's going from one to the next. Actually, in this case, it's going from the first one to the home planet. But because it's a satellite, it's 0.5, so this will be 2.5. And the rest are kind of similar types with extra values. So each array size is different. So if we run the tests, we'll have the test results that it expects, and then any other output that we decide to add to this. Okay, so the one I did yesterday, we did some pseudocode. I just basically added a list of comments with a kind of a task list of different items we needed to accomplish to get to our answer. So this is what the problem is, and let's see if we can figure out how to solve it. So it looks like we're going to need, well, we're getting passed in an array of whatever length it is. So I think we're going to need to determine the length of the input array. I always spell that wrong. Of array, route array. And it looks like we're going to need to loop through the array and then start adding those values together. So through array to get the sum of all elements. After we're done looping through, we're going to want to also divide the sum by 300,000 to get the number of seconds because it's kilometers per second. Also, we're going to want to count the number of satellites that each message passes through to add the 0.5-second transmission delay. So since it's going to be going from the last satellite to home, well, basically, so if there's 3 members in the array, 2 of those are going to add 0.5 seconds. So it's the length minus 1. So the delay equals length of, I did it again, of array minus 1. And then we want to multiplied by 0.5. Then we want to return the, oh, so we're going to add the sum, oh, the result of the sum. Well, what are we going to call that? That'll be seconds. Total seconds, something like that. Add the delay to the total seconds. And then we have to format this to return it. So they want it rounded to 4 decimal places with the trailing zeros removed. So we're going to have to figure that out. That I don't know off the top of my head. So format the return results. Okay, so these are the basic steps. So let's go ahead and write some code out for this. Up top, we want to initialize some variables. We could probably do this a little faster. Oops, I'm using var, which is a C# thing. I'm going to use let for JavaScript. Length, route, length, and array length. Let's do array length. It'll be confusing. Equals route. Oh, let's just start with 0. And when we want to determine the length of the array route, so array length equals route dot length. Let's do a console so we can see what that looks like. And a random sales call. And again, go away. Length. So array length. I don't know why. Okay. All right. Let's run this test real quick. Just see what we get. So we're going to be running the test on the first one. So we have a length of 2. That's correct. We want to loop through the array to get the sum of all the elements. So we're going to need a sum. What are we calling this? I'll just call it sum for now. Equals 0. So 4, we did the for loop yesterday. I equals, we're going to start with 0. This is going to be the index of the array. And as long as I is less than array length with a capital L. JavaScript's very picky about spelling, by the way. It has to be exactly right. And I plus plus. We want to increment it by 1 for every loop. You could change it to 2 or other things. And I have an extra thing there. Okay. So we're going to do sum plus equals. Remember yesterday we could do a sum plus equals or a sum equals sum plus. Basically, this is going to add array a route. We want route I. That's the element of the route. So we're going to add those up. Total seconds. Let's initialize that. It's not actually required that you have to do it this way. Something a guy got drilled into me in school a long time ago. Initialize arrays or any variables that you're going to use. Also makes it more readable at the top so people know what kind of stuff you'll expect to see. The only one we did not initialize is the counter for the for loop. It kind of takes care of itself. It's also very temporary. So total seconds is going to be, let's do total, I'm not sure I could maybe use a slash equals, possibly, 300,000. Did I type that right? Correct. The delay equals the length of the array minus 1. Let's do this again. Let delay equals 0. delay equals array length minus 1. I'm going to put these in parentheses because we're going to do a division so we don't have it do it at the wrong place. Times 0.5. We could also divide this by 2. It's basically the same thing. But just for readability, I'm going to do multiplied by 0.5. All right, add the delay to the total seconds. So total seconds plus equals delay. There we go. Now format the return results to rounded to 4 decimal places with trailing zeros removed. Let answer equals 0. Actually, this is going to might be a string. I might change this to a empty string. Now I need to look this up, so I'm not off the top of my head sure how to do that. I know in C# there's a .toString with parentheses function, and inside you can actually add a formatting string. Let's see if JavaScript has the same idea. Format a string to 4 decimal places. I have a feeling this might be similar. Okay, that's a little bit different. It's called number.toFixed. So the number is 3.14159265, which is pi, and they want to round it up to 4, and it's to be toFixed. So, and also that also fixes an integer like 10 to 10.0000. So we're going to want to trim those. But the first thing we have to do is get this figured out. So answer equals total seconds to fixed 4. And then we want to remove the trailing zeros. Let's see if there's a different one that does that. So use toFix rounds the number to a specified number of decimal places. And then parse float. Here, a cat. This method then parses the string back into a floating point number, which inherently removes any insignificant trailing zeros. Okay, so constant or let parse number equal. So let's do something called parse number above. Let parsed answer for 0 and actually we're just going to return this. So answer that parse float. What was that? Parse float fixed string. That was the number we had. Oops. I'm having trouble remembering this. Parse float. Okay, yeah, that is correct. Float answer. We're not going to return a row, so that should be our answer. Are we feeling brave? Let's try it out and see if this works. Oh no, it does not. Now here's where we have to figure out what happened. So let's do some console logs. Let's see how far our problem is. I think we're close. See what our total seconds is. Should be 600,000 for the first one. Oh, we have an error before that. Interesting. All right, let's do inside of this here so we can see what our value is. Maybe we just have a simple mistake. Running sum Let's do some. Let's do it in front of it, and then we'll do it after. Now we're not getting anywhere. For I equals 0, I is less than the array length, which is 2, I plus plus. Okay, let's check the values. Elements, route, I. Also, we want to do a equals. I don't know if I did that right. Yep, it's still right. Let's do 3 of them to make sure it's working. Correct. Okay. So we're not doing a parsed answer. Let's delete that. So we know this worked to this point. For I equals 0, I is less than or equal. Let me try something. I think it's less than. Because if it's equal, we'll have too many, we'll have an error. Is this supposed to be a comma? No, that's not correct. All right, what am I missing that's really, really, really obvious? Oh, wait. No. All right, this is really kind of blowing my mind a bit here. What's wrong with this? All right, we're gonna try something. I don't want to spend all day on this. Declared loop variable. Oh, duh. Okay. You have to use the word let. So I'm also used to certain things that you don't have to do that with. Of course. Got lazy there. Let's try this again. Okay. Element 300,000, element 300,000, running sum is 600,000. Yeah, I just were missing a let, of course. And total seconds. So we got down to running sum, which is here. Why don't we have total seconds? Looks like it stopped. We should have another total seconds here. Might be something wrong with this line. All right, incorrect variable name with total second. Did I spell that wrong? I did. I have a typo, of course. That's why that little green squiggly was underneath it. Now that we know that. Total seconds equals 0. Should be dividing sum by sum by 300 because that was already 0. Total seconds equals 3. There we go. Now we're getting somewhere. And let's put the delay in here. Again, this is why I don't do whiteboard stuff too much. All right, so at the very end, we have 4. So now up here, if we had an array of 2 items of 300 and 300,000, we should have 2.5. There we go. That looks more like it. Let's turn off this thing that forces the value and see if it works. It does. All right, after a couple small things, everything looks like it's working okay. And it looks like the two fixed for and parse float is working correctly. If we wanted to verify that, we could put this here and say answer plus answer. This is before we do the parse float. Let's see what this looks like. Oh, I guess, yeah, so it's 2.5000, and then we would have to do a parse float of that answer, kind of like this. And then if we ran it again, we had 2.5 without the trailing zeros. So that's correct. All right. What? No, I'll leave this. Oops. There we go. All right. Now let's check with ChatGPT to see ways to improve this code, because I think we probably did still do this a little bit the hard way. All right. All right. For this coding challenge, my answer is this. How can it be more efficient? Ignore the console.log statements. Copy and paste, and let's see what the answer is. Let's see what we can learn. It can be simplified and made more efficient and readable by eliminating unnecessary variables and redundant steps. So array length is not needed. Route.length can be used directly. And since we're only really referencing it a couple times, performance-wise, it would make a difference to do that. Total seconds delay and answer can be collapsed into simpler logic. That is true. The loop can be replaced with reduce. Instead of using a for loop to sum the array, use the array.prototype.reduce function. To fixed for returns a string with trailing zeros. You're already parsing it with parse float. That's good. Keep that to remove trailing zeros. So let's see what this optimized. Oh, wow, that's a lot less. Okay. So send message sum equals the route dot reduce ACC comma current is a pointer function to ACC plus current. I'm not sure exactly what that does. We may have to ask a question. Calculate travel time in seconds, distance divided by speed. So total seconds equals sum divided by 300,000. That's one line they kept out of all of it. Add a 0.5 second delay per satellite. Total seconds plus equals route dot length minus 1 times 0.5. Okay, so we had a sum and then we added it later. Return parse floats total seconds to float. So they took the total seconds to fix for and put it inside of parse float. So we could have done that in one line really easily and less variables. So reduce is concise and expressive for summing. All right, so if you have a question on a line of code in ChatGPT, can you explain exactly how this works? And you paste in a piece of code. Found it useful for HTML and CSS code, especially if it's using some things that I haven't seen in a while. This line is using JavaScript's array.prototype reduce to calculate the sum of all the numbers in the route array. What is reduce? Reduce is an array method that reduces an array to a single value by applying a function to each element in the array one at a time. Okay. So ACC stands for accumulator and then current value. So then return the updated accumulator. And this is the initial value. So let's say you have a constant route of 300,000 or three elements all the same. When you run it, the accumulator equals 0. The initial value passes the second argument to reduce. The current value is the first item in the array. So first iteration, ACC, the accumulator equals 0, and the current is 300,000. So it adds these together. So 0 plus 300,000 equals 300,000. The next iteration, the accumulator is already 300,000 from the previous answer. And the current is the next element, and it's going to add that on and become 600,000. And then up to 900,000. And then reduce returns the final ACC value. So they like it because it's concise, keeps your code functional and declarative, and avoids manual loops and temporary variables. Okay, interesting. And if you rewrote it with a loop, it'd look like this, which is basically what we had. I mean, personally, I think this is a little easier to read, but if you have learned what these do, then it probably would have worked fine. Let's test their code now. Let's copy this function. I'm gonna make that bold. I'm just gonna put this in here for fun and then put it at the top. So it's gonna use this one now. The other one's not gonna get called at all. And it does work. So interesting. Okay. So what we learned today is that I could have definitely done this much shorter. And you can kind of combine some things on lines to just make the code shorter, like for example, the parse float total seconds. And the other thing is the or the array name dot reduce. That's something I'm gonna have to try to use in the future. I'm not sure. It's just got a weird format or weird layout to that command that I would have to figure out. But I'm assuming if you're doing addition, you could do this, and if you're doing something more complicated, you could also put the formula here, like a division or a minus or whatever. So, okay, well, that's an interesting project. We'll see what we have tomorrow and the next day. So, thank you for watching.